This segment is brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
We're back. Let's join Kyle and Lucas Haag as they discuss misconceptions related to the fertility needed to grow sorghum.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer. I'm visiting with Lucas Haag. We're talking sorghum today. Lucas is talking sorghum fertility, or the fertility we need for sorghum. Lucas, what is the biggest misconception that people have about fertility in sorghum?
Well, Kyle, as we visit with producers across the state, crop consultants, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that sorghum requires less fertility than, say, corn to reach its maximum attainable yields. And so that's certainly something that we'll talk about today, specifically when it comes to nitrogen, that for a given how many bushel yield goal you have, it takes the same pounds of nitrogen to get to that yield goal in sorghum as it does corn.
But the yield goals tend to be higher on corn than sorghum, but maybe that's just because that's what we fertilize for.
Well, and there's a lot of other factors there. Where we're using it in the rotation, in different parts of the state, we see different responses to how that corn sorghum comparison works out. And so, but I think the key thing is certainly we want to be pushing our yield goals and that we're fertilizing that where we can hit them when we're in those above average years, and we get the precipitation and the heat and everything works out right, that we can really capitalize on those good years.
Now, you talk about rotation. A lot of times sorghum is part of a rotation program, especially on dry land. How does that come into play?
Well, it really comes into play, I think, and we'll visit a bit today, specifically managing nutrients like phosphorus, where we need to take not just a single-year view, but more of a long-term view. How does it relate to our soil test values? And so one of the things we'll talk about, I really encourage producers to work through some back-of-the-envelope exercises where we just think about how much phosphorus are we taking off in crop removal, how much are we putting back onto the field, and how's that affecting our soil test values. And good management of that obviously will help the sorghum crop, but all the crops that are in that rotation.
Now, there's parts of Kansas that sorghum doesn't grow well because of micronutrients. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yes, so certainly in western Kansas we have issues with iron chlorosis due to our calcareous soils, and so we'll talk a little bit about research that's going on at Hayes and Garden City and Tribune looking at some chelated iron products in furrow that have helped us combat some of those issues. And really we'll open the opportunities for sorghum on some acres where it's traditionally struggled.
As sorghum as a continuous crop, does that change the fertility a great deal?
I think, again, it comes back to recognizing, what we're pulling off in that sorghum crop, a little over 0.4 of a pound of phos for every bushel of sorghum yield, so making sure we're getting that replacement back on. And then, one of the best attributes sorghum has going for it is the amount of residue it creates and how durable that residue is through time. Now, part of that is that residue has the opportunity to tie some nitrogen up. So it's important, especially if we're in the early years of transitioning to no-till, we've got more residue out there. Oftentimes it requires more nitrogen in those early years to make that system work, and if we're growing continuous sorghum, that would further drive home the importance of that.
We're visiting with Lucas Haag. Lucas is with Kansas State University. This is Kyle Bauer reporting. Back to you, Jamie.
Thanks, Kyle. Next up is this week's Kansas Soybean Update. Stay with us.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.